Hello Army. What if everything you thought you knew was just one side of the story? When Taehyung spoke, no one expected that sentence to slip out. It was subtle, quick, almost accidental. But within minutes, fans were replaying the clip, analyzing every word, every pause, every expression. The internet exploded. Speculation spread like wildfire. Was it a confession, a misunderstanding, or something deeper happening behind the scenes? But then Jungkook went live and what he said changed everything. His tone was calm but firm. His words were careful but clear. That's not what happened. Just one sentence and suddenly the narrative shifted. Now fans are divided, theories are colliding, and the truth feels more complicated than anyone imagined. So what really happened between them and why did Jungkook feel the need to correct it publicly? Stay with us because this story is far from over. The moment Jungkook ended that live, the silence felt louder than the words themselves. Clips flooded every platform. Edits slowed down his expression frame by frame. Fans dissected the tremble in his voice, the pause before he said, "That's not what happened." Some believed him instantly. Others held on to Taehyung's original statement like it was the missing puzzle piece to something much bigger, because Taehyung hadn't just slipped. He had looked straight into the camera, calm, unfiltered, honest in a way that didn't feel rehearsed. And when he spoke about what happened behind the scenes with Jungkook, there was weight in it, like a truth that had been sitting quietly for a long time. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse, but he implied something personal, something unresolved. And that implication was enough. Fans began replaying older interviews, old performances, that one award show glance, that backstage clip where Jungkook walked past without saying a word. Moments that once felt normal suddenly looked different under this new lens. Was there tension? Had there always been tension? Jungkook's live wasn't explosive. That's what made it more intense. He didn't attack Taehyung. He didn't sound angry. He sounded controlled, careful with every word, measured like someone who understood that one wrong sentence could turn into another wildfire. "I think some things were misunderstood," he said softly. "It's not like that. Not like what he never fully explained." And that silence between sentences carried more pressure than a full confession ever could. The comments were moving too fast to read. Hearts flooding the screen, people begging for clarity, some asking him directly, "Are you okay?" Others demanding, "What did he mean then?" Jungkook exhaled. "There's no problem between us," he added. But when someone says there's no problem without being asked directly, it makes people wonder why that reassurance was needed in the first place. Meanwhile, Taehyung didn't go live again and no immediate follow-up or clarification post, just quiet. And sometimes silence feels intentional. Behind the scenes, insiders hinted that the atmosphere had been different lately. Separate schedules, fewer shared appearances, nothing dramatic, just subtle shifts that only longtime fans would notice. But subtle changes matter when the bond has always been portrayed as unbreakable. The narrative split in two. Team Taehyung spoke his truth. Team Jungkook is protecting something. And the most dangerous theory of all began to spread that maybe they were both telling the truth from different perspectives, because what if Taehyung felt hurt and what if Jungkook felt misunderstood? Conflict doesn't always mean betrayal. Sometimes it means two people standing on opposite sides of the same moment remembering it differently. But here's where it gets complicated. During Jungkook's live, there was a split second barely noticeable when someone off camera said something. His eyes shifted. He nodded slightly. Then he repeated firmer this time. "It's really not like that." That repetition felt deliberate, as if he needed to make sure the message landed. Fans started asking a new question. Was Jungkook correcting Taehyung or protecting him? Because if Taehyung truly didn't mean to reveal something, Jungkook stepping in publicly could have been damage control, not denial protection. And if that's true, then what exactly was at risk? The more people searched for answers, the more contradictions appeared. In one older interview, Taehyung once said, "Sometimes we don't talk about everything, even if we're close." At the time it sounded harmless. Now it sounded layered. Jungkook once mentioned, "We understand each other without explaining." That once felt comforting. Now it felt uncertain. Understanding without explaining can be beautiful or dangerous. Because when you stop explaining, assumptions start growing. What happened behind the scenes might not be explosive in the way fans expect. It might not be betrayal or scandal or dramatic fallout. It might be something quieter. Two people navigating pressure, growth, expectations, and the weight of millions watching their every interaction. But the emotional intensity of this moment wasn't manufactured. Taehyung's voice had carried something real. Jungkook's correction had carried urgency, and urgency only appears when something matters deeply. The most haunting part, neither of them directly addressed each other by name during those moments. And no, just statements floating in the air, heavy with implication. And maybe that's the point. Maybe this isn't about proving who is right. Maybe it's about understanding that even the closest bonds can face misunderstandings, amplified 1,000 times under public scrutiny. But until one of them sits down and speaks without pauses, without careful wording, without protective filters, the questions will remain. Did Taehyung reveal too much? Did Jungkook shut it down for a reason? Or is the real story something they're both choosing not to say? Because sometimes the loudest truth is the one still being held back. And if this chapter feels unfinished, it's because it is. The next move, whoever makes it, won't just clarify the story, could redefine it. The days that followed didn't calm anything down. If anything, the silence stretched tighter. Taehyung didn't retract his words. Jungkook didn't elaborate further. There were no joint appearances to soften the tension, no playful interaction to dissolve the narrative forming in the minds of millions. Just distance. Careful distance. And distance when two people are constantly watched together feels louder than conflict. Fans began noticing patterns. Separate exits, different groupings in photos, slightly delayed reactions during public moments. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious. But when emotions are already heightened, even the smallest shift becomes evidence. Still, there was one detail no one could ignore. Taehyung's original tone. It wasn't angry. It wasn't careless. It sounded reflective, almost like someone revisiting a memory that still held weight. That's what made it powerful. He didn't expose. He didn't accuse. He just spoke. And Jungkook's response wasn't offensive either. It was protective. That's the word that kept resurfacing. Protective of the narrative. Protective of the bond, protective of something unspoken. But what exactly was being protected? Some believe it was simply a misunderstanding magnified beyond control. A casual comment taken too seriously. A private moment interpreted publicly in an industry where every syllable is replayed endlessly. Intention can easily be twisted. Others believe it was something deeper, not dramatic, not scandalous, but personal. The kind of tension that happens when people grow at different speeds, when perspectives shift, when unspoken expectations meet reality. Growth is rarely synchronized, and when two individuals evolve under pressure, friction can happen quietly. But here's where the story turns. During a recent performance, there was a moment, brief but undeniable, when their eyes met. No exaggerated reaction, no forced smile, just a pause, a look that lasted slightly longer than normal. It wasn't cold, it wasn't warm, it was complicated. That look sparked a new wave of discussion because if there was truly no problem, as Jungkook stated, why did that single second feel so loaded? Body language experts online started analyzing micro-expressions. Fans zoomed into screenshots. Some saw reassurance, others saw restraint, but none of it answered the real question. Why did Jungkook feel the need to go live immediately? Timing matters. He could have ignored it, let it fade, let people speculate and move on. Instead, he chose to address it directly. That choice carries meaning, and meaning creates narrative. Another layer emerged when an old clip resurfaced. Taehyung once sang, "Sometimes we carry things quietly because we don't want to burden others." At the time it felt poetic. Now it felt like context. Was his recent comment one of those quiet things finally surfacing? If so, Jungkook's clarification might not have been about denial. It might have been about boundaries, about deciding what remains private because there's a line between authenticity and exposure. And maybe they don't agree on where that line is. The public often forgets that relationships, friendships, partnerships, creative bonds don't operate the same way off camera as they do on stage. Shared laughter doesn't mean shared perspective. Unity doesn't mean identical emotions. And when something personal slips into the public eye, the reaction can reveal more than the original statement. Jungkook repeating, "It's really not like that," felt less like correction and more like containment. Containment of what? Emotion. Speculation. A truth that belongs only to them. There's also another possibility no one is talking about loudly. What if both of them knew exactly what they were doing? What if Taehyung's words weren't accidental, but carefully measured honesty? And what if Jungkook's live wasn't damage control, but reassurance to prevent unnecessary escalation? That would mean there is no hidden feud, no betrayal, just two people navigating transparency differently. But transparency is tricky. Reveal too much and you risk misinterpretation. Reveal too little and silence becomes suspicious. Right now they're standing in that gray space. And the tension doesn't come from hostility. It comes from ambiguity, because ambiguity invites imagination, and imagination, amplified by millions, becomes something uncontrollable. Yet despite all the theories, one truth remains consistent. Neither of them has shown hostility toward the other. No remarks, no subtle shading, no distancing language, no emotional outburst, just careful movement forward, and that suggests something important. Whatever happened, if anything happened, is being handled privately, which means the most meaningful conversation likely didn't happen on camera. It happened somewhere quiet, away from speculation, away from millions of eyes. But even if they've already talked it through, the public doesn't know that, and the public's perception continues to shape the pressure around them. The next major appearance together will carry weight, not because of scandal, but because expectation has magnified every interaction. If they laugh naturally, people will call it proof that everything was exaggerated. If they remain composed, people will call it evidence of distance. They are trapped between interpretation and reality. And perhaps that's the real tension here. Not between them, but between private truth and public narrative. Still, one thing remains unresolved during Jungkook's live after he said, "It's really not like that." There was a brief pause where he looked down, almost as if choosing not to say something else. That unfinished sentence lingers. What was he about to add? Was there more he decided to keep to himself? Sometimes the most powerful statements are the ones interrupted by silence. And that silence is where this chapter ends. Not with answers, but with anticipation, because something feels incomplete. Not broken, not destroyed, just unfinished. And until one of them decides to speak again, not reactively, not defensively, but openly, the space between their words will continue to hold the mystery. The story hasn't reached its breaking point. It's approaching its revelation point. The only question left is this: when the next truth surfaces, will it finally close the gap or widen it forever? The revelation didn't come the way anyone expected. There was no dramatic announcement, no sudden confession, no headline confirming anyone's fears. Instead, it arrived quietly, almost hidden. A behind-the-scenes documentary clip was released. Nothing promotional about controversy, just rehearsal footage, casual conversations, unguarded fragments of reality, the kind of content meant to feel natural. And in one particular scene, the atmosphere shifted. Taehyung and Jungkook were sitting across from each other during a break.